Mr. Schwarzenegger, 2024 was the hottest year on record. We saw horrible wildfires, catastrophic flooding, and also carbon emissions worldwide actually rising. So given all that, what's the mood at this summit really like?
It's good. It's a great mood here because I think the key thing that what this year's theme is that, as I said in my speech, so a lot of people are kind of doubting of how do we move forward now because America is not as much on, kind of like interested in fighting pollution because of Trump and all that stuff. And I tell them, I said, look, pay no attention to that. There always will be leaders that will disagree with you, but let's move forward. I said, it's not everything is done on a national level. The majority of work is done on a local level. And I've seen in California, we have reduced pollution by 25% in California, even though the federal government was against it. So I'm trying to encourage everyone to think about what can you do as a city mayor? What can you do on a city level? What can you do on a state level? What can you do as a private sector, on a private sector? All of those things, and let's communicate better to the people because you got to have the people be part of the movement. It's a people's movement. That's what this is. And so this is what our conference is, to just say, stop whining and let's go do something about it. And when you talk about, there's climate change, and when you talk about there's fires and there's earthquakes and that there's all the kind of rain and storms and this and that. Yes, but remember that the majority of people are dying because of pollution. And what creates the fires, what creates the storms is the pollution. So if we terminate pollution, we are home free. That's where the action is.
That's the mission. I want to follow up on what you said about the United States in a bit, but just to get Mr. Blair in on this as well. Your institute recently published a quote online that I'd like to read to you. It says, "For global climate action, we're experiencing the greatest loss of momentum in history, just as the crisis escalates." I do want to get to talking about solutions in a bit, but just in your eyes, tell me what's been going wrong for the environmental agenda so far.
Well, first of all, there has a lot that has gone right. I mean, when people met in Paris 10 years ago, people were looking at the climate potentially rising 4 or 5 degrees. Now it's 3 degrees, which is still too much. But, we're putting more investment into renewable energy today than into fossil fuels. So that's great. The problem is you've had a lot of international crises. You've had, not just wars and conflicts, but you've also had the COVID crisis, which was enormous. And so budgets are constrained, people are anxious, and you've got a situation today where the developed world's emissions are coming down. I mean, maybe they can accelerate, but they are coming down. But the developing world's emissions are going up. So the big challenge today is how we manage to accelerate the technology innovation, and also how we manage to get the financial flows going from the developed world to the developing world in order to finance clean energy. Because even if clean energy rises, if those economies are still growing, and they need to grow in order for their people to succeed, we need to be much, much better at producing sustainable clean energy growth than we are at the moment. We can do it, by the way. I mean, I'm not pessimistic at all. I'm actually optimistic that this problem can be solved, but I think it needs a different mix of policies to do it.
Mr. Schwarzenegger, you mentioned Donald Trump in your opening answer, and you said you're optimistic in that we could work around him in a way. But is that really possible if the most powerful man on earth says, I don't really care that much for the environment, and he wants to invest heavily in oil and heavily in coal?
Well, first of all, I hope he invests heavily in oil, because we need oil. So we have not yet seen the replacement for oil. Coal is an absolute no-no. And so for him to say that, it doesn't make any difference to me because I'm in California. We have already solved the problem. We don't burn dirty fossil fuels in California in order to create electricity. We are using renewable energy. So the thing is, what I want to say is, the action is on a local level, not on the state level. What Trump does makes no difference to me. In California, we are moving forward. We are reducing pollution. We are having more and more renewable energy. We are putting more and more solar on the solar roofs. We are covering every warehouse with solar and everything. We are moving forward. We even kept a nuclear plant open, even it's a liberal state, but because that's where the action is. It's the renewable energy and nuclear power. So this is so Trump can do whatever he wants, When I was governor, I said this as an example, the Bush administration was in, they were against also moving forward environmentally, but I moved forward as a governor on a state level, and we had huge victories because of that. So I just want to get people off that kind of track of using Trump as an excuse. It's an easy excuse to say, oh, what I do now with Trump, doesn't mean anything. First of all, it's like there's so many kind of like conflicted kind of reporting out of there. We don't know exactly what's going on, what it stands for. So, I would just suggest to people, let's move forward and pay more attention to communicating the right way and talk about pollution rather than climate change.
Mr. Blair just mentioned before that we also have a lot of economic constraints. You can see that in Europe as well, that a lot of budgets are tight and growth has been weak. So if we want to also invest all that money into environmental protection and climate policy, aren't we in some instances asking the governments to pick up weights that might be too heavy to lift?
Well, to me, it doesn't cost anything. We have proven in California that we have the most strict and toughest environmental laws in California. But who is number one economically in America? California. Because it doesn't mean when you go green that all of a sudden it hurts your business. No, you can actually benefit the business. What do you think all the people that put the solar panels on the houses or on the warehouses? Who produces the solar panels? There's a whole huge industry that you're developing. What do you think who came to California to build the Tesla cars? Tesla. We opened a big plant that used to be the Toyota plant. We opened it up. They moved to Atlanta, and we gave it to Elon Musk to open it up and to build the electric cars there. This is where the action is. And what happened with Tesla? It became a company that everyone thought is going to go under, and it became a bigger company than all of the car companies together in America. This is how much profit it makes. And he has now brought electric cars all over the world. This is where the action is. Don't wait for Trump. Don't wait for anybody. Let's just go. I think it's ideal that politics work together with the private sector, with the nonprofit sector, and with all of this, with the environmentalists. That's the ideal thing. But we don't always get the ideal thing. And we have to work around it. Remember, for every attack, there's a defense. Nietzsche. But another one with Einstein, doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. That's the definition of insanity. So let's not keep going the same way. Let's find different ways, different angles to go and improve the environment.
So you're trusting in the power of innovation there. Mr. Blair, I have a follow-up question for you. Since you were a hugely popular politician during your time in office, and I know you just recently also published a book on leadership, what is your message for current politicians who are trying to form a positive narrative around all these problems that we've just discussed?
Yeah, look, it is a challenge because, as you say, budgets are tight and life's difficult for people. But if you take renewable energy, there was a time when I was in office and we were beginning renewable energy, people said, oh, this is never going to work. It's far too expensive. It's never going to be cost competitive with fossil fuel. You fast forward to today, it is competitive and has been now for some time. And so I think, for example, we are experimenting at the moment. My institute's doing a study on how you use artificial intelligence to make the grid work much more effectively, to be able to combine renewable with more traditional power and therefore save energy and save people money, actually reduce their bills. So I think it's always really important to say to people, pollution has a big cost, right? And we're about reducing that cost and not just reducing the harm to you and to your family as a result of pollution, but actually in the end, we're going to create a world in which your energy is going to get cheaper. And we should be able to produce a situation in time. For example, we've got a big project in the UK on nuclear fusion. And I completely agree with what Governor Schwarzenegger was saying around nuclear power. There's a whole new generation of nuclear power. We've got to be imaginative and innovative. And in the end, this problem's only going to get solved, not if you say to people, we're coming with this big penalty that we're going to slam on you in order to solve this problem, but say, here's a way that you live a better life, a more healthy life, and also we do that at a cost you can afford.
We're running short on time, but just a quick follow-up on that, because you drew out the vision here, but do you think that our current political and economic systems are up for that task? If you look at all the crises, the wars, and also the troubles in international trade, for example?
I think the solutions are there if we want to use them. I mean, it's not like we don't know what some of these solutions are. I mean, I think what's interesting is there is technology that we have that is not yet cost competitive, but if we put the right, do the right research and we put the right amount of resource into it, and by the way, it's not just from government, but from the private sector and from the philanthropic sector, we can make these things work for people. And the climate paradox paper that you referred to, what it was really saying was, it's not that you have to convince the public there's a problem. I think most people think there is a problem. You've got to convince people there are solutions. And that's where you need political leaders that are prepared to not just lead in the sense of saying difficult things to people, but lead in the sense of going deep and finding the solutions that are going to work, because they are there if we want to embrace them.
I think that's a great place to end. I have one last question for you.
I just want to add here, because you said a bit the turmoil that's going on right now in the world. I think it's bogus, let's be honest. I heard the same dialogue in America. Oh, what do we do now? Immigration problem and Trump and this and that. I said, then wait a minute. When I went over in 1968 to America, I said there was the Vietnam War.
The world's always
people were killed left and right. Then there were the protests. Then there were the hippies. Then they attacked the Democratic Convention in Chicago where people got killed. Then there was the uprising in every direction. I mean, there was like Martin Luther King was shot in 1968. Bobby Kennedy was shot and assassinated in 1968. Then right after that came Watergate with Nixon. I mean, there was madness beyond belief. And we moved forward. So never give this excuse to anyone. What is turmoil? Oh, there was COVID. Oh, I couldn't come on time because of COVID. Oh, now there's the recession. Oh, now there's Trump. No. Move forward. Have a vision. What is your vision? And move forward. That's what this is all about. And I love Tony because Tony has studied this stuff and he has educated me with the environment and with how to run the politics and stuff like that, and how to be determined and have a vision and to grind it out. Yes, there will be obstacles, and he was very helpful with us in California, and I think the world of him, and I hope that everyone is reading his book now about leadership and all of this. So he's the man.
One final question. It's not related, but our audience recommended this since you're such an icon also of the fitness industry. And we see a lot of young people also getting into that. But at the same time, they may be chasing body ideals through social media that might not work for everyone. How do you look at this topic?
Well, I tell people to go in a positive corner of the internet, which is the Arnold Pump Club. See, we show people the reality of it. How to work out, how to set goals, how to eat the right way, how to get kind of a positive attitude, and how to approach your day and all of those kind of things. I tell you, when I drive to the gym in the morning, I feel like I'm going through a black and white movie. But when I drive back from the gym and I have breakfast, I feel like I'm in a color movie. All of a sudden, everything looks bright. Everything is nice because now I did something for my body. So the body, the workouts are not just affecting the body and your health, but it also affects your mind. And this is what is important for people to recognize.
It's great to see that the motivation...
Don't share this information with anyone, okay? The secret information.
We'll keep that a secret. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the...
Absolutely.
Thanks to both.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Thank you.